So, hello and welcome. I'm Thomas. As always, I've got Geert and Mike next to me. And today we're going to talk about a very generic question, which is called life. Everyone talks about life because everyone sees the life outside your house, inside your house even. Everyone sees the reality which we are in. And I'm just curious, what do you think about life itself? What it is? How can you say that I am alive? And what is life about? What's the point of us to be here? That's also related to the topic of reality, and that's the subject which we been going through at least a few times. But apart from this essence information about life, also I'm very interested in the fact of why some people look at the life as something negative, and some people say no, life is beautiful. Is it only related to the fact that you've got money on your hand and you can just rule your world, your life, and then you feel happy because you've got money, so you enjoy your life, and if you don't have them, then you don't enjoy it? Because I know some people don't have money and they enjoy it. So what's the truth? How is it? How do you see that? So here, let's kick it off with you.
Yeah.
It's not not that simple if you just have the abstraction of life, because you have to look first deeper into what is around us, so that we can live. So you have the living substance, you have plants, you have animals, you have human beings, and so you have to look better at what is around us. You have to I think the physical world. The physical world is just the things the physicists call atoms and that sort of thing. So that's nothing. That's not life for me. And then you have, if you look at the world of the plants, then starts living. So the plant uses the atoms, or what you call it, the physical thing. The plants use it to bring it to the light, to the sun, in fact. So it grows. So the living area, the area where living starts. So that's not life, especially because life we mean all the things around us. But the living area is the thing where physical substance, there is something with it. It comes up around the soil. Then after a lot of time, it just, so you have a upcoming and a downgoing. So I think that's what life in the meaning of living beings, that's what is the essence of life. And then comes another realm, that's the realm of consciousness. So and the animals have consciousness, and I think the moving starts, real moving. I want something that's a completely different area than the living. We have a living thing too. We start as a baby, and then we're very fit, and we die as an old man or woman, and then we're not fit. So then the physical thing gets heavy, and consciousness is something really different. It's not heavy. And then there is an aspect, and that's only typical for a human being, that's the self-consciousness. So you can look at your own consciousness, the thing you want, you don't want, your sympathy, antipathy, you can look at it and you can work with it. You can say, well, I really don't like it, but it's necessary to do, and then I'm doing. That's really, the self-consciousness is that part of you that can work with the consciousness. So that's really different, and I think that's the only, on this earthly realm we are, it's the only The human being is the only one who works with that. So you have really different realms to look at what is life. And it's a typical thing to have a question only human. I think my dog never wonders what is life, so he has not that question. He's only wondering, well, why does my boss not giving me the food? It's 5 o'clock. He really knows the time, and he's never thinking about what is life about. So that's typical human area. But you have different realms to look at. And I think the life is about the self-consciousness. Because the dog does not have those questions. So it's our perspective of how we look at what
for
we
us
do.
it's our perspective, but life itself has its own perspective. If you look at consciousness that creates everything on the earth, then it's experiencing life through the plants. It's experiencing life through the animals, and it's experiencing life through human beings, and also through the different structures human beings, societal structures they make. They're all different sort of storylines. But consciousness is experience life through all of that.
Yeah.
It's experiencing it just in space with all the different planets. Some moons, some are planets, some are suns. It's experiencing life in the developing universe as well.
But you're starting with consciousness.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't know if the universe is self-conscious. We don't know that.
No,
we don't know if the planet is self-conscious. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
And we can only really discuss life as we understand it from our self-consciousness, our understanding.
But do you think it's important to look at those areas before you start with what is life? I think you see you first must be able to see where are we talking about. That's why I'm starting with this 4 areas.
You know, to me, it's quite. Life is weird. Life is weird. I would say it's not bad. It's not good, but it's weird. And let me give you the example.
WEIRD. Life is weird.
And let me give you the example. We say that we human, as self-conscious entities, we supposed to be good, but because no one actually defined what good or what bad, it's difficult to judge who's good or who's bad. And yesterday, for basically coincidence, I just watched one movie which presented the nest of the bird, mother bird standing above the small birds, and she got 4 of them. The camera was behind, you know, everything was set up by the cameraman. And there's a scene for 25 minutes of mother torturing one of the birds, small birds, because consciously, unconsciously, I don't know why, but she decided that this one is the weakest one and she needs to eliminate it. So instead of being cruel and perhaps throw it away because it couldn't fly yet, and just crush it, dump it outside the nest and crush it from the height of 30 meters. She was just shaking with how do you call it?
Beak.
With the beak, just biting, like,
yeah.
You know, and crushing the eyes and everything, the head, and shaking left and right, destroying basically this small baby. And that torture took place for 25 minutes, and it was like watching the horror movie. And everyone in the comments on the YouTube were saying, like, why the hell this mother is so nasty? Why she hates her own kid so much? Is she crazy? What's the purpose behind? Some people said, like, yeah, this is because it's nature. Nature is wide. Nature is weird. What weird means then? Why she decided to eliminate one of the birds? Some people said, like, yeah, because she's capable of feeding only 3 of them. Why? How does she know about it? To me, there's so many questions. So,
but it came an answer over an expert.
No, I was just
the maker of the movie was just throwing it.
No, it's like us. We just start. We're putting the topic on the table and we discuss it, but not necessarily we coming up to the conclusion, right? So I'm not asking you to give me conclusion or to present that to our viewers.
Yeah.
I'm just using this example to show that life is very weird, because if nature, you've got hyenas eating alive a zebra, for example, and it's not dead yet. Lion at least kills the zebra, right? And the life is dead. The life is gone. It doesn't breathe. She's dead. She doesn't feel anything. But doesn't mean anything to the source, to the God, that we feel something, that we experience this pain, that we struggle a lot this last 5 minutes or 10 minutes of our life. That bothers me a lot, to be honest, and that's part of the topic of life, because life is some creation of, in my view, where we just dive into the avatar, the costume, the artificial body in this physical reality, where we just dive into and we just play a role. But once we die, we go back to our real life. But why the hell we need to suffer that much? That gives me the idea that either a God or the source is extremely nasty, or nobody cares. It doesn't matter what happens here. It's just a game. It's just a pure experience. And when you die, you come back to your source and you say, "Wow, that was intense," or "That was disturbing, but I liked it." Apart from last 5 minutes or whatever. So, so that's why I'm just thinking, like, life is life, but then what is even nature? I think that nature is just the one big environment created for us to experience what we want, or maybe we don't want, but who knows if it's us. But basically we experience something in this reality, and that's what life is about. But the shape, the form, the tragedy of the situation we go through, the life, sometimes it's so horrible that I really sometimes cannot understand why we need to go through this horror.
But that's another topic.
No, this is part of the life topic in general.
The meaning of life.
Meaning
but
of
what is life? Well, it's weird, but that is could possibly be already some sort of meaning. For some, life is weird or cruel, or that's the meaning. But what is it? That's what we now.
What defines life?
What defines life? That's what we're talking about now.
What defines death? What is death?
What is death?
If you know what death is, you can say what life is. And we don't know what death is either, except the absence of life in a particular form.
And even that, yeah.
Well, we know, if a human being or an animal dies or a plant dies, it's not going to get up with a little bit of water again. So basically you can call it dead. It's lost its life force, wherever that life force is. It's the big question. But organisms, whether it's mammalian or plant, they have a life force. There's a life force that comes into them, that begins, goes through that process of growth, and then
optimal, and
then down towards decay and death and absence of life again.
That's
beyond that, we can only speculate. But the interesting is, what is that force? I mean, you can look at it in instinct for animals and whether
what's instinct?
Instinct. Well, instinct is like a program.
It's a basic program.
It's a program. Yeah.
But it's the beginning of consciousness.
It's the beginning of consciousness.
Because a plant does not have instinct.
Do we
a plant knows something, knows where the light is.
It knows where the light is, but that can also be automatic. But
But don't you think that birds are also automatic?
No, there's some very intelligent birds.
But they are
super intelligent
they are
birds.
more advanced. They're more intelligent than the plants, but they're still not as intelligent as
They're not
we are.
as.
So it's just
What they lack is the intelligence to develop empathy. We have that, which enables us to put
Not all of us.
ourselves.
Not all of us.
Not all of us, no. But most of us do, actually. It's just people who've got particular stories. Can't remember the English word for that. But
The mental issues, you mean? Or,
yeah, you can call them mental issues. Yeah, some issues. They can live without empathy, and then they act as exactly as animals do, without any guilt, without any consideration of consequence. And we as humans, we have that, which enables us to think, oh, if that was happening to me, I wouldn't like it, so I'm not going to do it. Or, if that was happening to me, I would like it, I'm going to do it, you know. Or I don't care, and I'm going to do it anyway, because the benefit I get out of it, like through jealousy, the satisfaction I get from it is worth it, and they deserve it. You know, we can contemplate all these different reasons for doing things. So, but it's the ability to put yourself in another person's place as the not the perpetrator, but the victim of an action that makes us not do certain things that other animals will do, and from that from the guilt sort of thing is to do with empathy. All your morals are developed out of empathy, and agreements that we make with other people comes out of that empathy sort of thing. But animals don't seem to have any of that. They don't need it because they work from a very basic nature program of just
satisfying
growth,
their needs.
death, reproduction, growth, death, reproduction, and they need to feed to complete that cycle going. That
But it's part of
reproduction
our life
cycle
as well. It's just on top
yes,
of
I know,
that,
but we
that
have
is-
the choice not to do it.
Yeah.
We have the freedom to choose not to do it and to contemplate why we're doing it. But they don't. They always go for reproduction, and all the other little things like throwing a bird, attacking it, it can't think. Oh, it's quicker if I throw it outside the nest. No, it's just an instinct to I've got to get rid of this thing, and it doesn't know how to get rid of it. It doesn't need to think about how to get rid of it. It just does what works.
Yeah.
And animals who eat other animals don't think about that other animal.
No.
And they don't bother them once they've been fed anyway. But that's the difference. But that's the basic program. Where we are elevated beyond that program to actually consider the effects to us of following that program.
Can you tell me now then, in your view, is the empathy part of the consciousness, or is it just a part of an advanced program? So we as a human being are just more advanced in terms of the program beings or creatures.
When you
How do you
say program, I can use program as a sort of a rule set for a particular environment.
That's still program.
It's still a program, but yeah, it's not
It's different program.
program.
But it's still
It's-
but that's what I mean.
Like say,
I'm not saying
no, I
program
know,
in
I
terms
know,
of
I
computers.
know, but I'm just making
But
this
it's a
clear for
code.
everybody.
It's a code.
It's
information.
a code. It's information, and it's a decision. It's an intention that this is the way things are going to go in this environment, and that's the basic nature program. Okay, with program. But listen to here discussing what explain how higher consciousness elements, angels, higher consciousness beings, they need us to experience this physical reality because they can't, and that they don't actually incarnate in animals, they just guide them around, but we can be incarnated in, so we can experience it firsthand. So it's another level of consciousness, or it's the main level of consciousness that doesn't need to be in every plant and every animal. It just provides the program and then incarnates in human beings to be able to experience the program.
All right, but you still didn't answer my question. Do you think that the empathy is part of the program, or is it part of?
No, empathy is part of consciousness. Empathy is what you. If you didn't have the empathy, you wouldn't be able to design the program. So an empathetic entity would say, well, I'm going to make this the program, and I'm going to make humans for us to go into, so we can experience it. And empathy is just a word to describe an understanding from a consciousness to be able to see things from different perspectives. Correct. And experience that without actually experiencing it. You know, by thinking imagination. I imagine how that would feel, so I can set it up. Empathy is imagination of a future event. You could say, of a different perspective.
For the human part of the consciousness, the self-consciousness. That differs from the animal part.
According to Mike, you need to be self-conscious in order
to have empathy. That's what you said.
Yes, yeah.
So that's
another level
special.
of consciousness that comes into.
It is a part of consciousness, but within the consciousness, you have the part that is self-conscious.
Yeah.
And there is the lack of empathy or empathy.
Yeah.
Okay, but now let me use another example. You got movies from the Sahara, from the South Africa, let's say.
Kalahari.
Or Nigeria or Congo. You got a lion attacking, let's say, buffalo or small buffalo. Yeah. And it's tiny. It's just been born maybe, I don't know, two days ago, and he barely walks. And he starts playing it with it like with a toy.
Like the cat with the mouse.
Yes, and at some point, and I thought like, okay, it's just a game before he's going to eat it. But he didn't eat it. What more important, the other lions realized, oh, he's got something to eat. Let's jump on it. And he started to shout and, bite the others, saying like, no, it's mine, leave it. And for an hour, they were showing like he just allows this buffalo to give him a hug, starts licking him, doing all kind of stuff like it does with its mother, with the buffalo mother. And the lion was not doing anything against it or not biting, just behaving like neutral. And obviously there was no indication whatsoever at the end of the movie, was it consumed in the end or not? But all those comments were saying like, you see that nature can not necessarily needs to be so cruel. And now the question comes again, is this the sort of glitch in the program?
Well, that's probably the best way to describe it. I was going to say that myself, it's a glitch in the program, because I've seen dozens of amazing videos of different types of animals that just click. Yeah. And you think, how is that possible? I saw one of a crow that had adopted this stray cat and was really protective of this stray cat. And the cat was a cat, and it's got cat instincts as well, but it had accepted this one bird as its mother. So and it was a wild cat, and it was it was a youth. So it was doing all sorts of things, and the mother was just watching it. The bird was watching it, making sure that not too far into the middle of the road, there's cars coming. That's sort of unbelievable, and you see so many different crosses, pigs with cows,
all kind of animals,
and other animals adopting other animals. Yeah. There was one there with a goose, and it wouldn't play with other geese, but it was set up on the dog. Yeah. And it would play with the dog, and it wouldn't play with the other geese. That sort of thing. And I think those are just, I don't know where that the glitch comes from. It could be with an identification program at the wrong time or the right time at the right place to make a connection. And once you've got that bond, it's unbreakable. But that's part of the nature program.
So it's still, according to you, it has nothing to do with the consciousness. I mean, self-consciousness.
I think there's two ways to look at that. There's one that it is a scale. It is a spectrum, and certain animals have it more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And individuals within certain animals could also develop a higher consciousness than the species mate, just as in humans. And then I had this other thought that there's a lot of talk in spiritual circles about the ascension of human beings to a new level of consciousness. And that's also to do with the Earth ascending to a new level of consciousness as a living entity, you could say. And everything on the Earth is also going up the ladder with, as the Earth ascends, everything living on it ascends, so humans will ascend also, to another level of understanding and towards what the ultimate consciousness would have. So it would stand to right, or be logical if suddenly you sort of seen animals with advanced stages of consciousness that sort of mirror basic human consciousness. When you see another bird, another crow, I saw one. It was enjoying itself skiing on a rooftop. There was snow on the rooftop, and it got a little twig, and it sat on the twig, piece of bark or something like that, or a tin lid or something, and it sat on it, and it skied down to the bottom, picked it up, went all the way back to the top again, and started. There's certain levels of enjoyment in there, so it's not just eat. There is, that's the thing, I was contradicting myself, it's not just eat. There's a level of consciousness in there that they can also enjoy certain things. Whether they can contemplate the fact that they're enjoying it, or whether that becomes a habit as well, a sort of invisible, unconscious desire to enjoy, because when you look at the sex drive of certainly human beings, there's a certain amount of enjoyment in there, otherwise you could too easily not do it, refuse to do it.
Yeah.
So there has to be some kind of unspecific, deeper enjoyment in there to make sure that the species continues.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also, why do we enjoy food so much? If we didn't enjoy food so much, we'd probably die because we wouldn't be bothered eating it. So why do certain flowers have nice colours and certain fruits are really tasty? Because it gives a sense of enjoyment to the animals or people who eat it, which makes sure they did come back for more. So there's a certain element there of maybe a higher program, to carry it on, to make sure it doesn't fail.
That's a very interesting story, because now we're turning slightly into animal words, but actually we're still within
We're talking about life. Yeah,
I mean, even life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be us like human beings.
No.
Because when you mentioned about colors and the taste and that it's tasty, you've got opposite situation as well. When you've got a tarantula, let's say, attacking some scorpion, and the scorpion has the I don't know, the harp or spoon, or what is it? The hook, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I think hook it is called, right?
I don't know.
And it's with the red color. It's just like a signal, like ding 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 ding. I've got a poison.
Yeah.
So be careful with me.
Yeah.
But how the hell snake, frog, whatever else knows that, this is a red color, I have to be careful?
Yeah.
It needs to be part of the program.
Yeah.
And the program is part of the code, and the code comes from the DNA. And DNA, what it is? It's an information.
But this is already thought.
No, we're talking about this physical layer.
Yeah,
now.
but,
I know.
the program, how does he know? Doesn't have to be a program. Well, we don't know.
And we're talking about program in general terms, not
not computer
I know,
program,
no, there's not especially
thought
computer
program.
Yeah.
If I write a plot and think a plot out for a book, that's a program.
Yeah.
Well, what got me though, where does this impulse come from to propagate, to reproduce?
Yeah.
That is the one thing about life. Without that, life would die.
Yeah.
Like that. You create the first metazoa, the first cell, the first living thing that you could say lived.
Yeah.
and even the first cell was really complicated. Where did it get the impulse from to divide into two? How did it know? But if you can answer that question, you can answer, it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And a living organism has to reproduce.
Yeah.
And, but why? Why?
Well,
That's what life is. Life is that reproduction and that growth and that expansion. And but there has to come an impulse beforehand. You could say program again.
Let me try to elaborate from my perspective here, and then we ask Geert how he sees that. But I see it. To me, it's quite, once again, because I look at it from the technology point of view. I think that whoever created us, whatever created us, didn't want to be involved in process of keeping alive all this environment himself or itself, constantly pushing buttons, clicking, thinking about it.
It needs to be automatic.
It needs to be automatic. It's the same as us. We created first programs where we were doing everything. At some point we was like, hold on, but why do I have to constantly click enter? Let me program, click enter every 5 seconds. And that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Which means that our creator created the environment within which we are in as part of this animal world, and we've got all kind of sub-programs, and one of them is the reproduction system program, which means that we need to reproduce. In order to reproduce, you need to, because you are consciousness, self-conscious, you need to have a specific program comparing to animals, because in animals it's like reproduce. What's the instinct? What's the impulse to reproduce? Smell. I smell that the cow is attractive based on the smell, because of her organs producing the pheromones. Oh, all right, okay. I need to copulate, but I don't think. As a cow, as a bull, I just run for it because that's my program. That's what it tells me what to do because I can smell. Smell means I need to have a extension of my device and I need to run and have a sex and copulate. With humans, it's different. It works the same way, but you can always say like, I don't want to, or I can skip it, or I can put on hold, or you can do all kinds of things, but in the end, you've got exactly the same program. It works exactly the same. You've got slightly different
that's the
impulses.
program of the nature. We are nature, we're part of nature, we come out of nature. But the consciousness is what's different. The level of consciousness is what's different. And trying to find that, what is that, is how does that all work? That's only speculation. That's what we've been doing. What is reality? What is consciousness?
Of course.
We can only speculate on what it is or where it comes from, where it began, how it affects everything and how it creates.
Well, this is purely my vision. I'm just telling you how I see it. And I see it this way. I'm just curious how you see this in terms of let's say angels and all the spiritual world which you see. How would you connect that? How do you see then the earth as an environment, the universe basically, and the life within this environment? How do you see it comparing to, not comparing, using
from the perspective of
from perspective of angels and spiritual life then?
Well, first, you talk about the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a thought already. We don't know if there is a creator or it's all accident, happened by accident. I don't believe that because it's too complicated to be an accident. But that's my logic, my thought. So, but creator, it's possible to think there is no creator because that's what most people in Western regions think, that it's not a creator, it's only accident.
So you mean atheists? You're talking about atheists?
No, scientists, they talk about this is all an accident. The Big Bang, and then
so
they don't know anything, they know they don't know how life began, that's accident they think, and they can't, they don't understand how sexual propagation started. So Darwin didn't understand anything of it because that's still a difficult thing. They don't understand why. Well, they could. The first entities, the worms, and they could propagation with themselves. Why is this so much complicated? Sexual propagation is so complicated. So why does nature have a complicated problem? No, well, that's so complicated, so there must be something else. And you're thinking, I come to the thought of creator or some that
Creative force, anyway.
creating force that's higher than because I can't. The thought is for me already difficult to think.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not possible to create. But maybe if I work on myself, I can, in the end, create also the things that my creating force created. So, it's really complicated. Too complicated to have not a creator.
But at the beginning,
yeah,
because you're sort of contradicting yourself, because at the beginning you said it's very simple. It's very simple. It's just it's just thought. But if you get the thought, how the hell we can have this environment, physical environment, be so complex, extremely complex, extremely complex.
I thought I answered that a few weeks ago or something, which is certainly a theory I've been thinking of. Consciousness. If you look at it, explain for now the quantum physics things. I mean, I don't know a lot about quantum physics, but the idea that everything begins as a wave. When they're not talking about something that waves, they're talking about a possibility. They call it waves of possibility. And only when it's observed does it become something physical, a particle. Okay. Now, a thought, nobody can grasp a thought. There's no substance to a thought. It's just there. Where it comes from, or whether that's another one of those topics, whether it comes from outside you, whether it comes from in you, doesn't really matter. But you are aware of a thought, and a thought has no substance. It has no size. It has no time.
Because it seems to be not physical.
Because it's not physical. No. But it can think things immediutely. You know, if just to make it really simple, if I ask you now, okay, think of an elephant. Well, you can imagine an elephant immediately. You're not imagining the organs and the skeleton inside the elephant. You don't need that to imagine the elephant, and you don't go down into all the cells and the molecules and the atoms. You don't. Every time you think of an elephant, you think of the elephant. Klar, finished, done. You don't have to build it up from atoms. And I think consciousness works that way. A thought works that way. Consciousness thinks an elephant. And lo and behold, there's an elephant. Complete. Then something happens, and whether it's an accident or whether it's an animal or whether a human being, they stop cutting that up. Oh. Well, if you cut something up, there's got to be something inside it. So consciousness, doesn't like a vacuum, just a wave of possibility becomes something physical inside that elephant, and because it's physical, it's got to have a function. So animals don't think about the purpose of a stomach. They don't think about the purpose of a brain or the purpose of the structure inside it or the cells. Or they don't go that far. Only human beings do that. We've taken everything apart and we found functions for everything that we found. But every time we look closer or cut something open to find something closer, we're going to find it because it's a wave of possibility, but it has to, because you're looking for it, it has to appear. So I think consciousness just created everything in one go, and it's human beings who've actually created organs, skeletons, muscles, cells, and numerous. You just keep going down, and you go smaller and smaller and smaller. I don't think we had atoms until we had molecules. I don't think we had molecules until we had cells. I don't think we had cells until we had organs. You know, and because it was, I mean, it's done long ago, and it's not necessarily done on this earth. We're talking about a process of consciousness that might have happened trillions of years ago in another universe, or in the beginning of this universe with other ancient alien species on other planets. They had the model already. So when they create a new world with new creatures on, it comes complete with atoms and molecules and cells and blah, 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 blah. But consciousness will create whole, but then if you take it apart, there's always got to be something to fill that space, and always something. Always got to have a function, so you will find the function. That was just a thought I had the other night.
I would like to, I don't want to say I agree or I don't agree, but certainly I see some areas which I wouldn't follow, but some areas I would like to follow, especially the second part, what you said.
Yeah.
Because taking into consideration that this creation or creator, whoever it is or what it is,
creating force
or creating force, whatever source, it exists and has been existing for ages. Like ages, I mean trillions of years. It might have developed itself or worked on itself or increased its capabilities of creation or doing or whatever else to such a high level that we cannot even recognize it, we cannot even cope, we cannot even understand. And then we can call it, yes, consciousness just thinks about the elephant, and elephant is there. And then to us it's a miracle and we call it God. But in reality I think that there's still something behind being creating this elephant. It doesn't matter if it's based on the particles or not particles, it's a virtual reality, whatever it is, it still needs to be created. Either physical, like you have to see with your senses, with your eyes, or it's not real and it's faking you. The environment is faking you, it's not real, but still it's real because you can touch it and you can see it. And if you cut it and open up, you see the, bladder and other parts of the... And then you dive in deeper and deeper, as you said. And all this needs to be created somehow. And it's created instantly. But why? Not because God is almighty. I mean, it is almighty, but it's almighty because it's been there for ages. For trillions of years. And
but time is also...
time is part of the factor.
Part of the factor to divide... it into weeks, days, or seconds, or years, or billion years. That's only humanity does. We don't know if somewhere else time doesn't exist. It's only some sort of the same.
I agree, but what I'm trying to say is, in my opinion, whatever happens behind the scenes, let's go like that, it's not miracle. I don't believe the miracle exists, basically. Let's call it like this. Miracle is just something what we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And why we don't know yet? Because we haven't, first of all, experienced that. Secondly, we don't know how it happened. We cannot explain that, etc., etc., etc. And we got all those questions. But whoever creates that, and it's miracle to us, it's way more advanced than us. And I'm not even talking from the technological point of view, spiritual level, whatever. It's just way more advanced, been there for ages. And that's why the gap is so huge that is there some example, as I told you last couple of weeks ago, about these tribals, why do men showed up in the Amazon, next to the Amazon River, and finding out that there are some tribals, and those tribals were treating those white guys in 1970s. That happened. They were treating them as gods. Why? Because they got a mirror in their hands. They show the mirror, and they look. They said, like, look, you can see yourself. And you know what they were doing? They looked at the mirror like this. They were afraid of what they see over there. Why? Because they believe that there's a different creature looking at them exactly at the same time when they look in the mirror. This gives me a valid reason to claim that this is just the fact of the big gap in advancement between those two groups of people. The white man who has developed for 2,000 years or 5,000 or I don't know how long. And the guys who just living in the trees, catching the monkeys, eating them, relaxing in the sun and enjoying the life this way. And when they see the white men coming with the camera, making pictures, and they showing them the footage, they're so amazed. They treat them as gods.
The difference is they have the capacity to understand that mirror once it's explained to them. You know, you can show a cat a mirror all the time.
Because they're
they will
human beings.
never, ever, ever understand that reflection is itself. Funnily enough, pigeons do. Pigeons are not stupid birds, apparently. You wouldn't believe it here in Amsterdam, but pigeons recognise their self in a mirror, as dolphins do. And well, there's not that many creatures who do. Elephants as well.
But it's not so stupid for those tribes to see them as gods, because a mirror shows you yourself. So the self-consciousness is a part that in a tribe, I don't think that it's like a tribe is like a group of animals who all is regulated. There's no freedom. There is, well, they're human beings, but in a miracle you are shown our godly part, the self-consciousness. I think that's the godly part of us. All is godly, maybe, but so it's not so strange the thought that they are gods, because they show them in the miracle. They show them the self-consciousness.
Yeah.
They haven't seen themselves before. They
are not self-conscious in the tribe. It's just everything. Well, they enjoy. Maybe you don't know what it is. With young dogs, you don't know if we say they are playing, but my wife always said, but they're not playing. It's all part of the thing that they have to. Who's the strongest? What all tribes of animals
just
do.
To set up rules.
It's not playing. They don't play. Playing is something human. But we project in animals who are just glistening off the roof. We project our own human consciousness in it as playing, and we enjoy it.
Yeah.
So. Well, we don't know if it's playing.
No, we don't know. But I think there's an element in some activities with some animals that it is fun. But even though they can't.
Spruce is the name of the. They fly in the air with all those groups. What's the name of the bird?
The starlings.
Starlings.
Yeah.
So they fly in groups, and for us it's so.
Yeah, but for them it's just just keep away from your nearest neighbour and follow that.
Maybe the same as a flower. If you look at the beauty of a flower, then you think, well, this flower is an artist. He enjoys making a flower like that. But is it that consciousness is not? Well, I don't know if it's there, but the flowers are beautiful. But it's our vision on it.
Yeah. I think it's easy once you start thinking about consciousness as something that is so big and so out there and far, far, far more advanced than we can even imagine, that everything that we find as a wonder or a miracle is just a piece of art for that thing. It's just, this is nice, I'll make that, I'll do that. This is interesting, I wonder what happens here.
But there is a question, I think, important. If I look at an advanced woodworker, I cannot do it. But the advanced woodworker has a child, and he cannot work with children because his impatience with other people is very, very small. So he works with wood. He's very advanced in woodworking. So the question now is, if those entities with higher consciousness, a lot of distance from you, what is the difference between us and those advanced consciousness beings? And is there something we can do that they can't? That's what my curious is. So, in other words, our life has no sense. If there is nothing for us to have to do here that's special, they can't reach it without us. What is it that they can't reach without us? For else they didn't have to create us.
No.
Good. That's. Let's carry on next time.
Yeah?
If you could write it down, please, because
Yeah.
this is a really fascinating topic, and I think once again we just scratched a topic called
Mhm.
life. Let's carry on next time with this one, and let's kick it off with your question. So please write it down. Thank you very much for now. See you next time.